You're tuned to The Drive on your 24/7 home of the Black and Gold. Steelers Nation Radio.
Good afternoon, Steeler Nation. It's The Drive on the Steelers Audio Network. Wes Uhler and Matt Williamson with you here for the next 2 hours on this Tuesday. As we are close, we are approaching the Steelers' final preseason game, the final week of preseason action in the NFL, Matt. Weather's getting a little bit colder. We're getting a little bit closer. One day at a time, a little bit closer to football.
Yeah, I'm loving it. Yeah. I think I'm not to the point where I'm like, I'm burnout on preseason. Give me a real game. So I'm looking forward to this one. I think the 3 is fine. 2 was where we're going eventually, I assume. 4, you were like, oh, I've had enough.
Yes, by halftime of the third game, you were like, get me out of here.
Yeah, that's about the end of it. But no, I think it's a good pace right now. There's a lot of stuff I want to see in this upcoming game. I think there's things to correct for sure from that second game. Might have got a little high on our own supply after week 1. These 2 quarterbacks are the best things ever. That's not the way the world works. And then we have that, like you mentioned yesterday, that long stretch after these preseason games until the regular season where it's going to be kind of barren in terms of, news and things like that, but they're going to be really hunkered down practicing for the regular season at that point.
Yeah, we are. It is going to be an interesting next 2 weeks after we get back from Buffalo and get this final preseason game in the books. Obviously, we will have plenty of getting you ready for the regular season and I would imagine a lot of fantasy football conversation during that time.
Tis the season for that.
Yeah, we're getting real close. I was getting my hair cut this morning, and like every TV in the barbershop, it's all fantasy football. Wide receiver rankings, that who's your top 10 sleepers and all that good stuff. So we will always be here for you. Of course, we will be off the next 2 days. I want to make sure to mention that off the jump, and I'm sure I will again before we get out of here. But I will be flying up to Buffalo at the time the show would normally be tomorrow, and then obviously preseason game on Thursday. But Matt and I will be back on Friday before the weekend to break it all down for you and start to look ahead a little bit in the process too.
Yeah, and you can find me on the pre- and post-game show for that Bills game too, so it's not like we won't have any interaction with y'all. And then Friday we're back hitting it hard, breaking down the game, I assume.
Yeah, that's it, man. We'll be deep diving and dissecting everything that happens Thursday night up in Buffalo at brand new Highmark Stadium. Matt wanted to get into.
You said it's like the easiest flight in the world, huh?
It's great.
Buffalo
is my favorite road trip.
I think that's awesome.
Like Cleveland is obviously very easy too.
Because you don't even get in a plane.
No, you drive and it's 2 hours.
Yeah,
maybe an hour and 50 if you're lucky and don't hit any traffic or anything. But you still got to drive to that one. Where this
you don't get a police escort from door to door.
No, police escort from a certain point on the way in.
Yeah, okay.
So, like, when you get to the limits of Cleveland, they're waiting for the buses to get there, and they take the buses to the hotel. And then after the game, they'll escort from the stadium till you're, outside of the traffic and the city limits and the crazy traffic.
It's not door to door.
And all that. Yeah. Buffalo, it's like you don't even have time to power on your iPad and watch an episode.
That's what you said. Like, it's like in the air.
It's like a 25-minute flight.
It's like a pop fly. Just like
and now,
fly out the center fielder.
I've shared this with you before. The kind of the operating procedures on the team chartered flights are much different than a normal commercial flight. There's not you must have your tray table up and your seat back in the full upright position. And there's not someone who's like got the safety card and is doing the oxygen mask and all those
all
things.
The procedural things.
Yes.
Yeah.
But normally it would be something along the lines of right at the same time that it was, you're now free to move about the cabin. The captain has taken off the fasten seatbelt sign would be right when it would be
fasten your seatbelt. We're going down.
Put your tray table up and all that.
That's crazy.
I don't even think there'd be time for drink service if it was a normal flight where they go around with the beverage carts and get you your Coke or your water or whatever the case may be. But yeah, I love it and always get some good wings. It's just an easy trip. Happy to be making it in August. It feels like we normally go to Buffalo in November, December, January, the few times that I've been there. So this will be a little bit more manageable. And of course, Matt, Labatt Blue is one of my favorite beers in the world.
Tis the hot spot for it, right?
It's kind of like going to Dublin to drink Guinness.
Yep.
It's where you get the best.
I'm kind of jealous.
So,
wings and Labatt's on an easy flight. Sign me up, dude.
I am an easy man to please.
Yeah, that's
I'm an
not
easy
bad.
man to please, Matt Williamson. And tomorrow should be a good one. And again, obviously, too, even a little more excited because the sports dork in me wants to see that brand new Buffalo Bills stadium. and add another one to the list of
I need your report on it
that I've been to.
I assume you have time to kind of just walk around and
because it's not till a night game. I think Dan Quinlan, our producer, and I think are going to get there a little bit earlier than we normally would for a road game, just because we'll have to get our bearings, and we both want to kind of walk around and check
I'm sure it's first time being there, brand new, squeaky clean, right?
Be dorks and all that stuff, and I'll have to ask about the flush test.
I think it's a real thing, right?
For those who we had this conversation in the offseason.
Flush them all at once.
Flush all the toilets at once in a new stadium and make sure they work.
Make sure the place doesn't implode or blow up or something. What if it goes wrong?
Then you're in
big trouble.
Especially at this stage in the game, because regular season's right around the corner. I will be back on Friday with a full report from New Highmark Stadium. I wonder what the food will be like there too in New Highmark Stadium. We'll have all that and more, of course, on Friday. But Matt, today I wanted to start with you. It was funny that the same thing that I kind of pulled from my prep this afternoon, my coffee and perusement, was something that you had emailed me about that I saw when I got in here today. Bill Barnwell of ESPN.com. He, of course, is one of the analysts, one of the NFL minds there that Matt and I think does a good job. We enjoy reading his work, listening to his work. He did 5 teams on the rise in the NFL this season, 5 teams set to decline in the NFL this season.
So I have not read them, but I clicked on them and thought they'd be good topics of conversation. But I know how Bill does his work. His background is at Football Outsiders and analytics and things of that nature. And if you go look at like FTN's guide or Sharp's guide or any of those, there's going to be trends. Like, for example, the Steelers just played the Jets. One of the bonkers thing of last season was the Jets didn't have an interception last year. 0 interceptions to 7 teams. By that too. Chances are it's going to get better. You know, I mean, we always say it can get worse, but chances are you're not going to have 0 or 1 interceptions next year. You're going to be back to league medium.
I would take the over for the Jets.
Or if you were destroyed by injuries, like the Cardinals were the most injured team in the league last year, chances are you won't be again. It doesn't mean you're going to be squeaky clean, but, you know.
Maybe you'll be in the middle of the pack.
Yeah. Like, I know Kansas City had some weird things about, like, the worst field goal luck you've ever seen. Things like that, you know.
And so with the 5 teams predicted to improve, I don't think this will shock many people, but the Chiefs are number 1 on the list.
Mm-hmm.
They were 6-11 last year. They were 1-9 in their 10 games decided by a touchdown or less.
So Dale and I used to talk about this to no end because I guess things came back to roost for the Chiefs a little bit. And I'm sure a lot of those were also when Mahomes was out.
They had a historical run in the other way.
And the other way, right.
When they won like 14 out of 15 one-score games at one point.
So Tomlin is one of the all-time best one-score coaches ever.
In fact, he might be, in terms of winning percentage, he might be
I think it's him and Belichick. They're like right at the top. And, oh, by the way, coincidentally, because Mike McCarthy's done so much talk about 2-minute drills, I did a search for him just yesterday, the day before, and his one-score record. And it's good. It's well above 500. I mean, 500 is the average, as you can imagine. It's not Tomlin's level, but it's well above 500. So he's very aware of late situational football. Anyway, what Dale and I used to talk about with Tomlin all the time is, like, so many of these things that are analytically based, and everyone knows I love analytics, would be like, oh, the Steelers are going to regress and not win as many games next year because they were 7-1 in one-score games. And after a while, Dale and I are like, we say this every year. You can't tell me there's not a little bit of an art to winning a one-score game.
It's not a hiccup or an anomaly. It's a trend.
And when it's Belichick, Brady, Ben, Tomlin, guys that know how they play it close to the vest and have a defensive minded to win it in the fourth quarter or not lose it in the fourth quarter. And the Chiefs, as you can imagine, Mahomes and Reed are pretty good at what they do. Were
yes, they are.
over the years, were as good as anyone for a long stretch in one-score games. Last year, the bottom totally fell out of it. Some of it was while Mahomes was healthy, and some of it was down the end when they shut him down. But they're bound to not be. History shows they're not going to be, 1-9 again in one-score games.
In 2024, they were 10-0 in one-score games.
Really?
An NFL record. In Patrick Mahomes' career, 43-17 in one-score contests.
I bet that's the best of any quarterback ever. I could almost guarantee it.
He doesn't say that in here.
Yeah. It has to be at the very top. Better than Brady.
He says, that's like Tom Brady, notable, which, again, would make sense. Hang in there till the very end, one-score game, your Hall of Fame generational quarterback is able to pull it out. How many times do we see Brady do that? How many times do we see Ben do that? How many times do we see Aaron Rodgers do that?
So to explain it further, I should have said, preface it this way. Analytically speaking, when you look at 32 teams every year in the league, the teams that are really strong one way or really strong the other in one-score games most likely get back to the mean. But that's the thing that Dale always says. Like, I think you're missing the forest through the trees a little bit. That doesn't mean that everyone's going to come back to the mean. There's a reason that it's Mahomes, Brady, Ben that are like the best ever at it, because it's a skill.
If Kyler Murray goes 7-2 in one-score games, the next year he's probably going to go 4-3 or something.
Right. Exactly. Especially if his history is to be right around 500 where everybody is. But there are outliers and being good at it. Or who do you not want to kick the ball off to with 2 minutes left when you're up 3? Mahomes. He's like my last choice ever, right? Yeah.
Yeah, the Chiefs went from 10-0 in one-score games in 24 to 1-9 in 25.
Wow.
And that's one of the biggest swings in league history, according to Bill Barnwell. No surprise with Mahomes' health and with some of that stuff that the Chiefs are one of the 5 on the rise.
I should have read this before, but I mean, I have an idea where he's going because I've done a lot of this homework. Does he mention the field goal luck thing?
That's what I was looking for right now.
Because I know these are just short write-ups. They're not going to be...
Yeah, they're just a couple paragraphs.
Thousands of words.
I don't see anything on the field goal luck stuff that you referenced, but I remember that being a conversation that we had last year.
And what field goal luck is, folks, not to be repetitive, I know we have new listeners and we're nearing the season here. When the opponent kicks a field goal, there really is no skill to whether it goes in or out. Yeah, I mean... Maybe some teams better at blocking them. Maybe Cam Hayward's a good field goal blocker. Ed Reed was a notoriously great field goal blocker. So maybe those teams block one more kick a year than average. But overall, when the ball leaves the kicker's foot, the defense, the field goal rush team, really has no say if it goes between the uprights or not. So that's field goal luck. It's different if you're kicking the field goal.
Absolutely.
I mean,
because that's all your control.
Good. Yeah. Yes. Someone on your roster is controlling if it goes between the posts or not. But the Chiefs had a historically bad – every field goal went in against them. Is basically what I'm saying. Like, they didn't have any that were just wide right, wide left.
Someone shanked one or
very few.
The snap got botched.
Right. Yes. They just had horrendous field goal luck last year. Like, that's never going to happen again.
Barnwell also notes each team's strength of schedule in here. Chiefs 14th easiest, so right about there in the middle of the pack.
Okay.
Number 2 on his list of risers is the Detroit Lions. They were 9-8 last year, 2-5 in one-score games. They had a plus 68-point differential on the year and did not make the playoffs.
End up being 4th when tiebreakers come in that division.
And
outscoring their opponents by 68 points.
Because of coming in 4th last year in their division, 2nd easiest projected schedule in the National Football League.
I didn't know how he's doing schedule projections, but Warren Sharp does it based on Vegas win totals on your opponent.
I think it's very similar.
It has to be real close.
Formula,
but in Sharp's metrics, they're the easiest schedule in the league, despite having a tough division. Because they play the Cardinals, they play who would be the Giants. I mean, just look at the last place teams. Yeah, and I think they play both South divisions.
You know what? You are correct. And so I think all of that considered, they didn't have the best health luck last year. They do have some turnover on that offensive line, but just a lot of talent on that offense, a lot of talent on that defense, well coached. I think the Lions are a good one to have on this list.
Yeah.
Despite it sounds funny saying a team has a winning record.
As a bounce back.
Is on the rise. But I get it in the context of they did just finish 4th in their division.
Now, they don't have a Super Bowl title to show for it, but like the Chiefs, in recent memory, both these teams have won a lot of games. I mean, do we think the bottom fell out? Maybe. I mean, maybe one of the two, that window shut. Mm-hmm. It's possible. Sure. I mean, there's holes in those rosters. They're not as strong as they once were.
Both the divisions are really solid, too.
Yeah, but chances are they're going to be good football teams,
New York Giants, the 3rd team on this list of teams to improve. They were 4-13 last year, 1-6 in one-score games. They do, though, have a top 10 toughest schedule, 8th toughest schedule in the National Football League. But as you can imagine, a lot of it is 1-6 in those one-score games, getting that back to around 500.
Yeah,
and just the Harbaugh and the stability and what could be a pretty stout defense.
And I would bet everything I have that Harbaugh's got a above average. I bet he's over 500 in one-score games over his career as well. And there's an art to How do you not lose those tough ones, et cetera? And I do just think a stabilizing force like him, or if someone were to hire Tomlin next year, especially if it's a team that's been bad, the Raiders, the Browns, et cetera, the Giants, you hire a coach like that, 9 out of 10 times, you're going to get back to respectability pretty quick. Like the only time I can think about it was the Raiders hired Pete Carroll last year, and I thought, wow, they'll finally get to like 7 wins, and it didn't go that way. But most often, these dudes that know how to win get you to at least mediocrity quickly that have been for bad teams.
According to a quick Google search, Matt, it looks like Harbaugh has about a 56%. John Harbaugh, of course, has about a 56% win percentage in one-score games. At 57%.
It's actually quite good.
So that's 100.
50 is average.
103, 77, and 2 ties.
Okay, that's about where McCarthy's at too. By the way, I mean he's at 56 or 58. I can't remember.
That's
just off a quick Google search.
That's what I was going to say. My hastily done search there. That's what it is returning. Staying in the Meadowlands, staying in New York, New Jersey. Number 4 on Barnwell's list to improve this season is the New York Jets. They were 3-14 last year, 3-5 in one-score games. Holy cow, their point differential last year was minus 203.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah.
That's well over 10 points a game.
Wow.
Projected strength of schedule, 6th easiest.
I think it's a pretty easy one.
Big
and
kicker.
They're going to have an interception.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. They went all season without a single interception, the first time that has ever happened.
It's amazing. It's amazing. 17 games and never get the ball in your hands, a tip ball or anything.
It looks like, according to Barnwell's numbers, they were the first team in 503 seasons. So kind of stacking to not
503 teams.
503 teams to not have an interception. That's wild.
That's wild, right?
That's just
17 games.
Astronomical. That has a lot to do with it. An improved defense has a lot to do with it. Some stability at the quarterback position mentioned here. And again,
Gino almost has to be better than what they played with last year. I mean,
it
was Fields
schedule too that sets up pretty nicely for them. So both New York teams on here, and then last but certainly not least, Matt, the Baltimore Ravens on Barnwell's list of predicted teams to improve.
And again, they didn't make the playoffs last year,
and they did have a losing record,
right?
8-9. They were 1-4 in single score games. They are projected to have the 5th easiest schedule in the NFL.
What's crazy is if you look at the AFC North through any of these schedule metrics, the Steelers have by far the hardest. The other 3 are all like 2nd, 5th, 8th. The Steelers are right in the middle. They're like 15th or 16th. That's just because they got the first place schedule. And I also think Vegas is underrating the Steelers win total too. So they're giving the Bengals, Browns, Ravens a little more credit than I would for, they get to play the Steelers. Steelers don't get to play the Steelers. You know what I mean? And I think the Steelers win total is way too low. It's like at 8 or something, you know.
It's like 8.5 maybe?
Probably 8.5.
I think it's 8.5. He mentions, obviously, Lamar Jackson returning to health, the defense not collapsing like it did last year, and having, again, they won just one-score game last year.
Really?
Of course, referencing the Tyler Loop miss here at Acrisure Stadium. I agree with all those things. I just continue, Matt, when people talk about, we've seen a lot of these lists, and Baltimore's very high on power rankings. They're high on teams to bounce back, and they're tied with the Rams for the highest over-under win total in the National Football League.
Yeah.
A lot of the optimism behind it, I understand. Bad luck in close games. The defense fell apart. Lamar Jackson was not himself. But no one mentions the fact that they have a first-time NFL head coach. Not a new coach, a first-time
I have a hard time always betting on those
head
guys.
Coach.
They might be a dynamite team next year after he learns.
That, to me, carries about as much weight as all those things that you could say certainly should be moving in the right direction in Baltimore. There's just such a wild card unknown of a first-time head coach. Not a new head coach like Mike McCarthy.
Yeah.
A first-time head coach in a place where the expectations are you better be contending for a Super Bowl.
Right. And they are the favorite in the AFC to go to the Super Bowl.
Not just the North.
Right.
The favorite in the AFC.
Couple things here. It's probably unfair to search this, but I bet, like, if you look first-time head coaches, not first job, what is their collective record since 2000? It's going to be bad because a lot of them go to bad teams. But I just wonder how bad. I mean, rarely does a first-time head coach inherit Lamar Jackson and an organization like the Ravens that have won perennially. You usually are the Browns or the Cardinals, But I would think that they're way, way below 500, just in terms of first-time head coach's rookie year as coach.
It looks like in the recent era, I mean, there's some good examples. Matt LaFleur was 13-3 his first year. Kevin O'Connell.
Well, he inherited a really good team from McCarthy. I mean, that's kind of a similar situation. He inherited Aaron Rodgers.
Kevin O'Connell, 13-4. Matt Nagy, 12-4. Kevin Stefanski, 11-5. Sean McVay, 11-5.
Okay.
But
that's not a bad group, yeah.
According to Google Analytics, Google AI, pardon me, most finish with 6. The most common finish is 6-11. 7-10 are the most common records for first-time rookie head coaches.
And both of us are a little concerned with the Ravens. I don't think either of us think they're going to win 6 or 7 games, but you can't look at the head coaching situation as a positive in terms of just projecting the season.
Super Bowl era first-time NFL head coaches have a winning percentage of 44% during their debut season.
I knew it was going to be below 500.
Yep.
And a couple of those teams, like you mentioned, the good ones, inherited better situations than I remember. Aaron Rodgers
and that is
Lamar.
That's part of the kicker, too, though, is 65% of rookie coaches achieve a better win total than their predecessor in their first season.
Okay.
But I think those are probably the big outlier examples.
I would think.
Like the Nagys and the Sean McVays.
I mean, McVay's maybe the best coach in the league. I mean,
right.
That was a really good hire no matter what. I mean, he's just good at his job.
Yes.
And
like
Minter might be, too. I mean,
like Harbaugh's first year in Baltimore, they went 11-5, but they were right in the middle of
they
going
were a really
to
good
AFC
team.
championship games, and
that was kind of like when Tomlin took over for Cowher.
Yes.
Right. They were good organizations with good players and quarterbacks and defenses, and
some of those years the Ravens might have been the second or third best team in football. They just couldn't get past the Steelers in the playoffs.
Yeah. Can you do one more other search for me? Because one of my buddies just sent a text as I was going here, but Ethan Posick, P-O-C-I-C, injury. He's the center they just signed. I think he got hurt today.
Let's see. Oh boy.
Maybe not. I hope I'm right and I hope I'm wrong. For Steeler reasons, I hope they don't have a center.
I don't see anything right now. We can look into that a little bit more when we go to break here, man.
I thought they had a center injury today, which would be catastrophic for them.
Huge for them.
Because they were kind of lucky to get him off the scrap heap like a month ago, because they had nothing after Linderbaum left. And I thought I just saw a blurb today that they had a bad center injury.
Let's see
but
here.
I hope I'm right. I hope I'm wrong.
I'm not seeing anything right now. We'll see if we can look into that a little bit more in the break, but I'm not seeing anything on Google or on Twitter here via a quick search. We'll have intrepid producer Tyler
I'm looking
V
here too.
Take a look at that for us when we return. Let's talk the other side of this equation. 5 teams who might disappoint, who might not live up to expectations here in 2026. We'll do that as we roll along.
Danny Pincher might be out for the season.
Oh.
Okay. He was in the mix with Posick. Okay. But that's a big loss for them, too. He could be their starting center, yeah.
We'll keep an eye on all that.
TV found it, yep.
As we roll along, big shout out to Mr. TV. We are back on YouTube as a reminder for all of yins out there. Wes Uhler, Matt Williamson, it's The Drive, Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network. Back on the drive here on this Tuesday. And Matt, before we jump into the 5 NFL teams on the decline here, we do have to give a quick shout out. We lost a legend earlier today.
Yeah.
Dolly Parton. Matt, there's not many people in the world that I think are universally beloved, but she's on that short list.
Or recognized, or everyone had some influence from, right.
Yes, it's that, most people, you could find a group that didn't really like them or didn't really jive with them or weren't picking up what they were putting down, thought they were controversial in some way, whatever. She's one of those people kind of unanimously beloved across the board. A real slice of Americana. And so
that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah. Rest in peace to Dolly Parton, a true legend, and all the best to her family here in these coming days.
Absolutely. But I'm sure it affected a lot of people in a big way. I mean, I didn't love her music. I didn't have her.
Sure.
I mean, I didn't dislike it, but it still affects you. I mean, that's one of those ones.
Without a doubt, and a real kind of trailblazer in her industry, certainly. And all the best to the Parton family here in the coming days. Matt and I spending the first hour here. 5 teams on the rise, 5 teams poised to decline. This via one of our guys that we like, Bill Barnwell of ESPN. Matt, let's take a look at the 5 decliners this year. And one of them is a name that you have mentioned, maybe not quite to the Washington Commanders extent last year where they took a massive step back.
Yeah.
But the Chicago Bears.
Yeah. I mean, they're just one of these teams that maybe ran before they can run or ran before they could walk or whatever the heck it was,
right? They could crawl.
One of those things. And they're just, I mean, like FTN has them as the number 1 offense projected, but the 32nd defense. That's a hard way to live. And I'm sure where Barnwell stresses on this one was the offense was great last year, and the head coach and Caleb and all these guys look like hits, but they were just so turnover dependent that it's going to be really hard to replicate the turnover situation. By far, number 1 in the league.
30 or 31 turnovers forced last year.
Yeah,
that's going to be tough.
It'd be hard to keep up. Yeah,
they were 7-4. In 1-score games. So even if that goes to 6-5 or 5-6, all of a sudden you're looking at 9 or 10 wins instead of 11.
Now I will say, Caleb has. You never hear me like he's got the it factor or whatever.
He might though.
But boy, he was ridiculous in terms of late game heroics. He might just be one of those guys that is better than most or better than anyone at it,
They have the 10th toughest schedule in the National Football League. It was 33 turnovers forced last year.
Yeah, their ratio was by far the best.
They were 27th in points allowed, but number 1 in turnovers. They also turned the ball over a league low 11 times. Mm-hmm. So forced the most turnovers.
And turned over the fewest.
And gave it away the least. They were plus 22 in that department last year.
Like, there's no way that duplicates. There's just no way.
That's like almost historically good there for the Bills.
To be the best
for the
and the
Bears,
worst.
Pardon me.
Be the best in both, actually. Not the worst in any. The best
so
in
even
both.
if both of those just slightly regress, you're going to be in for it. But the Caleb Williams factor is real. He might just be a dude.
Yeah, he has some hero
can
to
make
him.
up for some of that stuff. Number 2 on the list is the Denver Broncos.
That one surprises me a little bit.
14-3 last year. They were 9-2 in 1-score games. Their strength of schedule is 15th, right about in the middle there, right about average.
Not an easy division.
And so kind of the reasoning here seems to be,
I mean, I get 9-2 is probably going to get closer to the mean.
Some of
but
that
Peyton's
stuff
been around the block
in 1-score
too.
games.
Yeah.
And then just around the division, improvement from pretty much everybody else, from the Chargers, from the Chiefs.
That's fair.
The Raiders necessarily being a pushover anymore.
I guess that's fair. I think all 3 of their opponents are better.
Yes. And
although we think every team in the league's better right now.
Barnwell says he still sees Denver making the playoffs, but for a team that won 14 games last year, it's probably more realistic for them to win 10 or 11 this year.
Okay, which still could be a Super Bowl team.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, I guess if you win 14, including the playoffs, you're probably going to go backwards. I mean, they're not the 78 Steelers. Right. They're a good team, but they're not this powerhouse.
Third on the list is the Jacksonville Jaguars. 13-4 last year, 6-2 in 1-score games. They do have the 12th easiest schedule in the NFL.
So here's one note on them is, from what I remember, they finished the season very strong.
9-1 in the last 10 games.
Okay. So I didn't know this, but it really adds up. Aaron Schatz, I was listening to, who is FTN and Football Outsiders. He went into pretty much detail that one of the biggest misconceptions by fans, analysts, etc., are teams that finished the year before super strong like that.
That's going to carry over.
That's going to carry over.
Year.
It almost never does. I mean, it's a totally new season, and you got to think about it. I mean, part of your roster's hurt like everybody else, and your roster might be 40% different than it was last year. Like, yeah, you did good things, and maybe Lawrence is turning a corner, or clearly trading for Jacoby Myers rounded out the receiver room and made everybody in better spots. But that doesn't mean you're just going to carry over. That was 4 months ago or 5 months ago. The world moves too fast.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Barnwell also outlines, I like this, how they had some good quarterback fortune down the stretch. So in that
who they played
in that 9-1 stretch that we mentioned, they got Davis Mills instead of C.J. Stroud. They only got half a game of Justin Herbert before Trey Lance. They got Brissett instead of Kyler Murray. They got Riley Leonard and Phillip Rivers out of the Colts.
Wow.
They got Brady Cook from the Jets, and they got in one of their games against the Titans. They got Brandon Allen instead of Cam Ward.
That matters.
So they had some real getting backup quarterbacks, getting teams with injured QB luck.
I don't know if the Saints will be on this list, but their situation's sort of similar. They finished the season very strong against really bad quarterbacks.
The Saints are not on this list, Matt, but the Carolina Panthers are.
Huh.
Well,
I can see that, I guess.
South champions. 8-9 last year. They were 7-3 in one-score games.
Probably won't
at
keep
only
up.
8-9, they were 7-3 in one-score games. They have the 13th toughest schedule in the NFL, so not crazy high, but on the other end,
division's not hard
of the pendulum. Division's not hard, but they do play a first place schedule this year.
What, Seattle, the Bears, and Philly.
Yes,
I mean that's not easy.
Tough.
Right,
that's tough. They were a -69 in point differential last year
and won the division.
And won the division. I don't know if they're going to get away with that again.
Yeah.
And Barnwell pointing out expects the Bucs to put up a little bit more of a fight, expects the Saints to put up a little bit more of a fight.
Yeah, I think both those teams are improved. I don't know what I'd say Atlanta is, but I think both those teams took a step forward.
Yes. So Carolina, the fourth one on the teams set to decline here in 2026. And then last, Matt, but certainly not least, team we saw in the Super Bowl last year, the New England Patriots.
That one I think is pretty obvious.
They were 14-3, 7-3 in one-score games. They do have the 10th easiest schedule.
But they had by far the easiest one last year.
But that's kind of what he talked about. It's a big step forward for them. It's a much more difficult slate. They're dealing with some substantial roster turnover. They're no longer going to fly under the radar. Mm-hmm. Does any of the Mike Vrabel distraction stuff carry into the regular season?
That's fair.
And what really does the addition of A.J. Brown get you? Does he look like the guy that he had been in the past? Are there maybe some issues with him there if he's not used in the way that he wants to? Mm-hmm. He said he thinks the Patriots' floor is a little bit lower than most people seem to think.
I wouldn't fight him overall, and they probably would make my list as well for all those reasons. But if I were to fight him, I would say two of the weakest positions on the team last year were O-line and wide receiver. And they added A.J. Brown and Dobbs. They added Vera Tucker and Lomu. Mm-hmm. So they got better where they were weak.
They addressed their weaknesses, yeah.
Now, the strength of schedule stuff, I've said this before on the airwaves, I think that absolutely applies to their playoff run. I mean, Nick's getting hurt the game before you're going to play him.
You can only play the hand that you're dealt.
No, but you're right.
But they were dealt one of the best hands we've ever seen.
To get to the Super Bowl and win, 2 or 3 games, that's as easy as it gets.
And everyone
Chargers
knows,
with no line.
Everyone knows you need some luck in the stretch to go on a run like that, but they got a lot of luck.
Yeah, I mean, Nick's getting hurt at the end of the game a week before you play him, and Stroud throwing a million picks.
Falling apart.
Yeah, no Nico in that game, and Chargers didn't have any offensive linemen. Mm-hmm. So that gets as easy as possible. And yes, I recognize that their regular season schedule was the easiest in the league. But that bothers me a little. Because if you play 17 NFL teams,
they're in. You say that line that I had. It's not Ohio State against Akron.
Right. It's not like they played the MAC this year.
Yes.
Oh no, they still
not
played.
Pitt playing RMU.
No,
or WVU playing Marshall.
Yeah, New Mexico State was not on the schedule last year. They still played 17 NFL teams.
New Mexico State was not. Could you imagine if they were? Also, real quick, did you see what the Big Ten did today?
No, but I've seen. We might have to have a conversation about people going from the NFL back.
That's
okay.
You want to save it for the next segment?
I don't understand it 100%, and I think it's insane.
Let's save it for the next segment because I want to talk with you a little bit about that. And the Big Ten actually did something interesting today. But there's your 5 teams on the rise.
It was a Patriot that went back, right? Come to think of it. There's a defensive end from the Patriots that now is LSU Tiger.
A couple were Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Okay, I knew the first one was.
Who's been officially cleared and greenlit, but I think
let's talk about it.
There's kind of a backlog of guys that are trying.
There's
to get
16 eligible or something like that.
Yes, let's discuss that when we return here.
I need your insight on that
to close down the first hour. Some craziness happening with some back and forth between college football and the NFL, and this kind of ongoing change to the landscape of amateur athletics and particularly amateur football. Wes Uhler, Matt Williamson, rolling along here on the drive on this Tuesday. Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network. All right, Matt, hand up. I got a confession to make.
Bring it on.
My whole life, well, I shouldn't say my whole life, kind of my adolescent and young adult years, I did not like the Big Ten Conference.
Okay.
They didn't win at that time nearly as much as the SEC. But
you think they were a little overrated?
I thought they were a little overrated. They had Ohio State, who was outstanding, who has been in the 21st century one of the best, maybe behind Alabama, the second best program in all of college football. But Michigan, until the Harbaugh years, was really down. Penn State kind of at the end of Paterno and into Bill O'Brien.
They always left you wanting more.
Indiana was not nearly what they are now.
Even like Wisconsin.
Even Wisconsin and Sparty aren't quite what they were. Yes, you added Oregon, and yes, Indiana took a big step forward. And yes,
yeah, but that's only 2 years ago Indiana showed
exactly
up.
Right. And what really used to bug me, Matt, was all the love that the Big Ten Conference would get in basketball, when until last year, they hadn't had a national champion in 25 years.
No, really?
I mean, they had won Michigan State had won March Madness in 2000, and then last year Michigan, it was a 25-year gap for the Big Ten to win a national championship in men's basketball.
Yeah.
So I was like,
and there's some good programs, Purdue,
some great
Ohio
programs,
State, Indiana. Right.
And I was like, these guys, they like to think they're the SEC. They like to run their mouth. They're really Ohio State in football and a bunch of underperformers in basketball. But I got to put my hand up. The Big Ten has been outstanding the last couple years, both on the grass and on the hardwood.
Okay.
And the Big Ten did something today that I think is fantastic, Matt. They are set to pass a rule that stops players returning from the NFL to playing college football in the Big Ten.
Good.
Any player that has declared for the NFL draft and did not withdraw, appeared on an NFL roster, or signed a contract with any professional football league cannot be on a Big Ten roster. The athletic directors of the Big Ten unanimously approved this rule via Pete Thamel of ESPN. It now goes into kind of the final voting process, but is expected to be revealed here soon, maybe even today, that it has passed. This comes in wake of two NFL players, the Cleveland Browns' Daquan Wright and the New Orleans Saints' Xavier Harris, parting with their respective teams to join just the man of integrity, Lane Kiffin.
They both went to LSU.
They both went to LSU.
The one I was thinking of was the Browns guy.
Now, to be fair, they both played at Ole Miss last year for Lane Kiffin.
Right.
So there is a connection there. But obviously, there's been all these back and forth rulings about fifth-year eligibility, and we've covered some of this. And
I mean, even like the Trinidad Chambliss stuff.
Injunctions and all this different stuff. And so we've seen, again,
the Sorsby stuff. I mean, there's been a lot of weird stuff lately.
And these two to LSU are the two that have kind of become official. But there's some other NFL guys that have been in mini camps, guys that have been in training camps, guys that have played in preseason games.
Oh, yeah.
Already
went through the combine, hired agents, did the whole deal.
Attempting to get back into the transfer portal. And I love this from the Big Ten, Matt, because it's funny. I said in the last segment, there's not many things that we all agree on. One of them is that we all love Dolly Parton, right?
There you go, right.
I don't think there's many things that college fans agree on, but one of them should be that once you've crossed that line into the professional ranks, you can't come back.
This bothers me.
It bothers me so much.
It should never even be on the table or an option at all.
You remember in this past football season, there was 2 minutes during our Around Campus segment where we would talk about college football where I complained that this was happening in college basketball.
So there's a precedent in other sports.
You had a guy who played for the Knicks in the G League and went back to Kentucky. You had a guy who played for the Charlotte Hornets in the G League and went back to Baylor. And it's just ridiculous. It's insane. And I understand that college sports are about as cutthroat as we have in terms of it's the Wild West. There's no parameters. Mm-hmm. It's just win, baby. Check your integrity at the door and just win some games. And college football has been like that for a while, but it really is now. But I'm glad to see the Big Ten. There is a clear-cut power two in college football. And even as a WVU fan who doesn't have a seat at that table, Pitt fans who don't have a seat at that table, I think we can admit, yes,
the SEC and Big Ten.
There's Power 4 conferences. The ACC and the Big 12 are a lot closer than everybody else behind them.
Mm-hmm.
But the Big Ten and the SEC also kind of stand a step ahead of those two.
No question, right.
I'm very glad to see the Big Ten doing the right thing here. And my goodness, this word integrity that has seemingly been lost in college sports forever, but especially the last 5 years, this is the right thing to do in a landscape where we rarely see, these conferences and these teams doing the right thing anymore.
So I have questions for you. Would your hunch, being knowing what you do about college sports, especially football, that other conferences follow suit now?
So the SEC issued a statement emphasizing its belief that athletes who choose to leave college athletics and sign professional contracts should not be permitted to return to college competition. But they didn't say that they would ban it.
Yeah.
No
they obviously
comments.
Just let 2 guys in today or yesterday or whatever, right?
No comments yet from the Big 12, at least as I see now. ACC Commissioner Jim Phillips said today that the conference plans to discuss the topic this week. So just kind of a real vanilla, we're going to talk about it.
So I would think other conferences follow suit. Maybe not everyone, but I bet some do soon.
I would think so because, again, while it's the Wild West and while there's no rules, you still have to have that progression of high school football, college football, professional football.
Yeah. They could be 5-6 years older than the dudes are playing against.
And if I'm a 4 or 5 star recruit who's getting recruited by an SEC school, how do I know that I'm going to get on? How do I not know that I'm going to get onto campus? You're going to go, this guy's not ready, and you're going to pull somebody to take my spot.
Yeah, or I'm really, really good. I've got the starting job locked up as an 18-year-old. I'm a 5-star at LSU, and then he's full professional defensive end off the Browns or whatever. Like, what? I'm not cool with that.
I'm not cool with that.
Right. And what college team would turn their back on these guys? So more questions. I assume the folks going from NFL to college are going to get NIL.
Oh, they're going to probably make more than they would as a practice squad
guy. I assumed.
Absolutely.
I just want to make sure all the listeners got that part.
Absolutely.
It's been explained to me this way, and maybe it's even you that explained it to me. It sounds as though, to me, again, not really being knowledgeable about it, the NCAA as a whole is less powerful than it's ever been.
Oh, they have been defanged to the nth degree.
If I can just take it to courts and
they're terrified.
Find some LSU alumni that's a judge, I'm in trouble.
In the first
the Trinidad Chandler stuff.
In the first 100 years of the NCAA, they had all the power.
Yeah.
They were the judge, the jury, and the executioner.
Whatever they felt like doing.
Now it's done a complete 180.
Okay.
Now they feel like they have no power,
helpless.
and they just don't want to get sued everywhere. And it's just, again, kind of the Wild West. Let the conferences do what they want to do, and we'll just stand down and stand out of the way.
So the conferences, Big Ten, a perfect example, says we're going to do this. Well, what if Johnny from the Browns says, I want to play at Ohio State? Because my coach is there.
Ryan Day says, kick rocks, I'm taking him.
Right, and he gets the best lawyer he could possibly find, and the judge happens to be a Buckeye.
That's a great question.
I mean, can they overthrow the Big Ten's policy? I bet they can if they tried hard enough or had enough money.
I'm sure because again, there's
at least they'll try.
When there's no real parameters, you can challenge everything legally.
Yeah, this is our policy. We're not going to take them, but this kid really wants to be there, and they really want him.
If all of a sudden, Matt, on 79 out here, they ripped out all the speed limit signs, and I get pulled over for going 100 miles an hour, and the cop goes, you can't go that fast, says who?
Right. Let's take it in court. My lawyer might be better than yours.
Ryan Day, Ohio State coach, whose Buckeyes are number 1 in the preseason poll, by the way, said yesterday he would have to, quote, at least consider the possibility of adding eligible players who were cut from NFL rosters.
What coach wouldn't? I mean, think about
again, if you're the only one who's going to try and take this high road and be noble, you're going to lose games.
You're going to lose,
get better than you. You're going to lose your job.
That's like saying I wouldn't take transfers.
So from the coach's standpoint, I understand it's hard to blame.
Oh, yeah.
But that's why there needs to be commissioners or somebody that puts a kibosh on this right away.
Yeah, Ryan Day or whatever coach, his job is to win football games. If you're going to give me good football players, I'm going to take them. I got no problem with that.
I don't either.
I don't blame the players either.
Or at least I have a problem with it, but I don't. I don't blame them.
I probably would do the same if I was Ohio State's head coach.
Cutthroat of all cutthroat industries.
If I was a defensive end or tight end that couldn't make an NFL roster, and some school's going to give me a ton to go back.
I could take these 2 guys, make my team better.
Yeah.
Beat Michigan and win the Big Ten.
And maybe you have a Mesidor season who's 3 years older than everybody else. So do you know this? Okay, I think his last name is Wright that went to LSU from the Browns. Can he get drafted next year? I'm almost certain he went through the combine already.
I would think so.
I thought so, too. We talked about this on...
They can't just become free agents all of a sudden.
No, I don't think they get to pick and choose where they go. I think they go back in the draft process.
We're going to have some of these guys who are going to be drafted by 2 teams in their career?
Yeah, but I was at the combine last year. Do it again.
Now, that's like a kind of adjunct example of this.
I think that's what's going to happen.
Tommy Castellanos, who was a quarterback at Florida State, went to a rookie minicamp tryout with the Miami Dolphins, didn't get invited to any training camps.
Okay.
He's now trying to get enrolled at Texas Tech because Brennan Sorsby is suspended.
It's a perfect spot to
Texas
land, right?
Tech's trying to get him in, and he's trying to go back to Texas Tech.
Which is a perfect marriage because they thought Sorsby, they're searching for a quarterback. He's searching for a landing spot.
This to me isn't quite as extreme as someone who's played preseason games, but he was in rookie minicamp with the Dolphins back in May.
Right. Yeah. I mean, some of these guys were blocking Cam Hayward.
So what if he would have what if he would have gotten invited to Dolphins training camp? And then what if they would have had him play in preseason games?
And it didn't look like he's going to make the team.
It's just nuts, man.
It is nuts.
It's all these lawsuits everywhere, and the NCAA is powerless, and it's like pen the tail on the donkey in the dark.
I mean, yeah. And Wild Wild West might even be sending it.
might be
underselling it. So I made the joke today, just, from my world, when I was the recruiting assistant at your favorite university that's on the south side.
That school located in the Oakland district of Pittsburgh.
I would walk up to the admin's desk every morning, get a bin of VHS tapes that were this big, that were hard to carry, and pop them in my VHS with my clicker and do that all day, basically. And half of them Dad filmed from the third row through a tree, and you don't like, who am I even looking at?
Grainy footage.
Yeah, or some 16-year-old on the AV squad or whatever filmed the game. And I'm sitting there thinking, man, if I was LSU's recruiting assistant right now, all I got to do is get NFL Pro and watch the Browns preseason game. Like, yeah, I'll take him.
I'll take him. It'd be a lot better.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a crazy world out there,
That's
Matt Williamson.
I don't approve of any of that.
I don't either. We'll keep an eye on that as that plays
Once
out
you go pro, you should be done.
Completely agree.
In
any sport.
The day you declare, done.
If you've practiced, if you've been in the building, if
they give you a uniform and a check.
If they give you a uniform, you're there.
Right.
You're
and I know they're not making their salaries yet, but they made something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You had a tryout with an NFL team.
You were a member of the team.
Hour in the books, another hour to go here. We're halfway home. Wes Uhler, Matt Williamson. It's The Drive, Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network. Good evening, Steeler Nation. How we doing? Well, that's good. Us too. It is hour number 2 of The Drive here on this Tuesday as we roll along. Of course, getting ready for the final preseason game for the Steelers up in Buffalo Thursday night. Matt, I do want to get some thoughts on that from you before we get out of here, since, again, this will be our last show.
Yeah, I guess our last time to kind of preview it,
Until Friday. But one thing that I wanted to start this hour with, Dan Graziano, of course, of ESPN, basically put out an article of teams that have big quarterback questions this season and heading into 2027.
Okay.
And, of course, I'm sure it won't surprise people, but the Steelers are on the list.
Yeah, but, I mean, of course they are.
Let's start with the Steelers, and then maybe we'll hit on some of these other ones.
I have not seen this list, but I could put quite a few teams on that list. And as much as you and I, rightfully so, have talked about how promising this next quarterback class is, there's no guarantee you're going to land one of them. There's a lot of competition for these dudes.
Unless you have a proven franchise, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes type quarterback.
Yeah.
Or you've drafted one highly in the last year or two.
Mendoza Ward,
Ty Simpson.
Yeah.
You're probably in that conversation. And then there's a couple that are like the CJ Strouds and the Bryce Youngs of like, all right, give us one more year, let's wait and see here.
Yeah.
But
or Tampa with Baker coming up. I mean, like, there's a lot.
He has 16 teams listed here. Which
okay.
Is half
I was going to say, I wonder if you could get to half the league where there's at least questions.
That's
like Houston's probably on there, but I bet Stroud gets re-signed. But I would still put him on the list because he's not signed.
Absolutely. Like the Eagles are on here with Jalen Hurts.
Oh, I would definitely have him on there.
Yep, absolutely. So, like, even the Rams are on here with Matthew Stafford, but that makes sense because could be his last season.
Super quick Eagles note, because as I often say on Robert Mays' podcast on the way here, I heard him cite this about the Eagles. They were talking about Hurts, that no one, I think it's been the last 20 years, no team has won the Super Bowl without being a top 10 passing efficiency team, except for the Eagles. And no team in the playoffs since the 2005 Steelers ran the ball a higher percentage than that Eagles team. So they were just such an outlier of how you win the Super Bowl that his point was Hurts shouldn't be safe, which I 100% agree.
I do think that.
It's just a hard way to live. They did it differently than everybody to win the Super Bowl. That doesn't mean they can't be good, but to win the Super Bowl.
Here's the kind of write-up on the Steelers.
Okay.
Of course, Aaron Rodgers signed through this season. He'll turn 43 in December and has said that this will be his final season in the NFL. Pittsburgh has a pair of intriguing young quarterbacks in Will Howard and in Drew Aller. They kind of stole the show in the Steelers' first preseason game. Reports out of Pittsburgh indicate Mike McCarthy wants to continue to work with Drew Aller to improve his footwork and some other mechanical issues that were viewed as drawbacks during the pre-draft process. One of the reasons the Steelers brought in McCarthy was because they believe he has a strong record of developing young quarterbacks, and they know they're going to need to do that at some point very soon.
Mm-hmm.
Most likely outcome, Rodgers plays to a similar level that he did in 2025. The Steelers win 9 or 10 games. Maybe they make the playoffs. Maybe they don't. Rodgers rides off into the sunset, and the Steelers are left to evaluate Aller, Howard, and potential 2027 draft picks as their long-term solution.
I think that's a very
completely
accurate way of depicting it from a national perspective. Mm-hmm. You know, if you look at every team, I think that's very, very fair. I'd be shocked, and I think you would be too, just chatting with you, that next year they go get the next Russell Wilson or Rodgers or Baker. I think it's going to be a youth movement. I mean, I think whoever the opening day starter is, unless it's Rudolph just for like a month, is going to be young.
That's the only scenario where I see a clear-cut placeholder like Kirk Cousins is this year with the Raiders.
But you know the writing's on the wall that guy's just a placeholder.
Maybe it's Mason Rudolph. Maybe it's someone like Kirk Cousins or Geno Smith for another year, but it's a clear placeholder.
It's a good influence on the young guys, and
And then the long shot out. So that was the most likely outcome. And I think
that's dead on. Yeah.
If you made me, read the tea leaves, Wes, what does the quarterback room look like in 2027? What is the training? Who are the 4 guys that are training camp in 2027? Right now, I would guess Aller for sure. If I'm naming 4, I'd probably still put Will Howard in there.
Aller for sure.
I think a veteran for sure, Mason or another veteran, and then a 2027 first-round pick.
Yeah. Which, again, is weird in terms they proved me wrong, but I'm immediately thinking, how do you get all those guys reps and all that stuff? They were really good about that in camp. They had 2 fields going. They had everybody involved. It's a big job for quarterback coaches, though, to bring up 3 prospects. At that point, Howard's still a prospect. Allen's still a prospect. I mean, you assume neither one of them started 10 games this year.
Yeah, that's what we're hoping, at least. Or else that means that something went really wrong with Aaron Rodgers and his health. So, that's where I'm at.
But I'm with you. I think that's likely. I mean, unless Howard would not make the team
unless Howard ends up getting cut or gets signs with another practice squad, whatever that case could be. Long shot outcome. Things kind of fall apart this season in the first year without Mike Tomlin. Steelers have a losing season that goes badly enough to draft, one of these young quarterbacks, a high enough draft pick, in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
I still don't think that's the case. Like, I think even if you did worst case scenario for the Steelers this season, I still don't think it's high enough to be drafting an Arch or a Dante Moore organically. Now, maybe if you earn the 9th or 10th pick, it's a lot easier to move up to 3.
Yeah. That's 7 wins.
But I don't see the 3. Steelers just getting the 3rd overall pick or the 4th overall pick being that. I just don't think the roster would allow that. I don't think there's enough holes in the roster to be that bad.
If I wrote this, and Dan's a good dude, we worked at ESPN together, I would add a sentence or 2 of, if it does go that bad, I bet you saw Aller, though. You know what I mean? Like, if they're 2-8 or Rodgers is hurt and you have a bad record.
Well, Rodgers hurt, absolutely.
Then maybe you just give him the last month or 6 weeks of the season, and then maybe he's so good that we're not going to take one in the first round. Again, I've said that's one of my issues with the Aller pick is how can he possibly do enough to convince the organization
Aaron
that
Rodgers has to get hurt for a long term. That's the only way. Because even in a scenario where the Steelers...
Where you wouldn't consider a first-round pick.
the Steelers' failure to launch this year, right? Let's go down the list of all the bad things that could happen. Some of your aging vets on defense get hurt. Your pass rush isn't what you think it's going to be. The secondary never gets on the same page. Something happens with Joey Porter Jr. and
holds out the whole year.
Exactly.
Or, all this bad stuff happens.
Doomsday scenario. Chris Boswell turns into a pumpkin.
Right.
Your offensive line is Swiss cheese. Pittman and Metcalf, one of them gets hurt, and the wide receiver room is barren. Again. All these bad things. I don't see a scenario, even if that's the case, where they go to Aaron Rodgers and say, hey, we're going to put you on the bench for the last 6 games.
Right.
I think McCarthy has too much respect for him. I think the organization has too much respect for him. I think an injury...
Do you think he wants to go out that way from an unbelievable career?
The only way that we see Aller or Howard for a significant stretch of time is if it's a significant injury that causes Aaron Rodgers to miss a significant stretch of time.
And even all that bad stuff you said... Yeah, that could all happen, but I think the only real likely spot where you get to be like a 4 or 5 win team is if you're the most injured team in the league.
Agreed.
And that could happen to anybody.
Sure.
I mean, like the Bills lose Allen and DJ Moore and, 3 or 4 huge injuries. Right. All of a sudden, it's like, we got nothing, Kind of what happened to Chiefs last year.
A little bit like the Chiefs
last
year.
And you end up in the top 10.
And that then, okay, you can go and... I
mean, some might say it's even a blessing in disguise. If it ends up getting you Sellers and you don't have to trade up for them, it could be good for the team because all those guys come back. And, boy, I lost Zach Frazier for the year, but I get Zach Frazier back.
Hey, whoa, take it easy there.
Trying to take a personal shot at you.
Don't you put that on me. Yeah, I continue... If my thought process changes at any point, I will put my hand up and I will admit it to you and to the audience. But I continue to think I cannot see a realistic scenario, again, other than Aaron Rodgers misses a bunch of time with an injury. That's the only one where I'm not going to be pounding the table to you have to take a quarterback in the first round of the 2027
Yeah, and maybe that guy competes with Aller.
Sure.
I mean, I'm not saying Aller has no chance.
Sure.
I don't even bring him to camp.
Maybe they're both good, and then you got a champagne problem.
How much fun would that be?
That'd be awesome.
Like, these guys are both really good.
Then you do what the Packers did when they had Brett Favre and flipped 2 quarterbacks for first-round picks.
Yeah, right.
Then you do what the Eagles have done, and Sam Bradford, get out of here, first-round pick. Carson Wentz, get out of here, first-round pick.
Yeah.
Having 2 good quarterbacks is not a problem.
Would be wonderful.
Or at least 2 quarterbacks that are perceived as good as around the league. Because Sam Bradford and Carson Wentz obviously weren't the same guys after they left.
But the Steelers absolutely should be on this list, of course.
100%.
As much as any team in the league.
Seattle Seahawks are on this list, Matt.
Wow.
Sam Darnold signed through 2027.
I would say it has to be a contract thing with him.
And some of these are just as simple as contract things.
Yeah.
Most likely outcome, the Seahawks have another excellent year. Back-to-back Super Bowl titles is always a long shot, but they contend, and they're one of the best teams, and they have success. Darnold has another good season. He did just turn 29, and there's no reason to think that what he's done is a fluke. Darnold and the Seahawks extend his contract and continue to contend.
I wonder if they're even talking extension now. I mean, they have him at a real bargain.
They have him at a real bargain, and if you think this is the guy who he is, get it done. Long shot outcome, Darnold and the team struggle. Maybe we see Jalen Milroe at some point. And the Seahawks, end up looking for a proven veteran in free agency who can step in and win games.
All good points, but they would not be on my list of teams likely to be in the quarterback market the first round next year.
Tampa Bay Buccaneers are on this list.
They absolutely could be.
I think
they have nothing behind Baker either. It'd be different if they had a second-round pick, like even a Milroe.
And he's heading into the last year of his career here. So,
easily.
They kind of that's basically what he, outlines. The most likely outcome, the Bucs win the NFC South. Mayfield plays well. Maybe they win a playoff game. The Bucs could use the franchise tag on him.
I think that's what Steeler fans would want. If you want teams to fall off this list, you want the Bucs to win their division
and give Baker
run it back with Baker.
An extension.
Yeah. Get them off the list.
Yes, and then the other potential outcome is they turn away from Baker. Maybe they go to one of their backups. And then they end up, going back into the free agency market, looking for maybe the next Baker Mayfield or Kyler Murray type, or they go to the draft.
Draft seems more likely.
Draft seems more likely because if they're going to bottom out like that, they could potentially have a high draft pick. The Eagles and Jalen Hurts on this,
for sure,
which is admittedly crazy when you're 18 months away from Hurts being the Super Bowl MVP. But they were 24th in total offense last year, 19th in scoring. What happens if their struggles on offense continue? Most likely outcome, the team still seems too good to flop. The offensive line is healthy and still one of the best in the league on paper. Saquon Barkley and Devonta Smith, two very legit options. There might be some growing pains as everyone gets used to the new offensive coordinator and the new system. But Hurts doesn't crumble under all of this, bounces back. The Eagles' offense is strong enough to complement a really good defense, and they are a legit Super Bowl contender. And
certainly possible.
Potentially, we could be talking about another Hurts extension this time next year. Other potential outcome, it falls apart. New offense doesn't work out. Hurts doesn't pick up the new offense. Offensive line is getting older and feels the loss of Jeff Stoutland. Mm-hmm. We see someone like Tanner McKee at the end of the season.
That's what I say is if I were to write the worst case scenario is Hurts gets flat out benched for McKee in week 10.
Yes. And, they trade Hurts the same way they did with Bradford and Carson Wentz in the recent history.
He ends up with the Colts or something.
Sure. Speaking of the Colts, Matt, they are on this list too.
Probably should be.
I think that the Colts should be on this list without a doubt. Daniel Jones is signed for 2 more years.
I bet they don't end up taking a first-round quarterback, but they should be at least considered.
Most likely outcome, Daniel Jones' history tells us that he misses. He's played 16 or more games in a season once in his 7-year career. Mm-hmm. He's now had leg and neck injuries, coming off a very serious injury. Most likely outcome, Jones is in and out of the lineup throughout the season. The Colts have to decide whether to bring him back or to move on. And, new kind of front office and futures of coaching staff and all that will likely determine Jones's future in Indy.
They could certainly be a team. Like, I bet Jones is on the team a year from now, but maybe there's a first or second round pick in the room with him. Mm. You know what I mean?
Sure. Maybe kind of like we were talking about with Aller.
Do we want to extend him again?
Situation,
right.
Matt, the Baltimore Ravens are on this list.
Which is nuts.
But Lamar Jackson, he's entering that point where it's, he's got 2 years left on his deal.
Yeah.
And he's got a ton of guaranteed money over the next 2 years, $52 million each season. But there is a potential to get out of his contract in 2 years, just for kind of, your salary cap purposes. Most likely outcome, Jackson stays healthy, has a great year, and the Ravens return to the playoffs. Everyone feels good. Everyone feels refreshed. Deshaun gets a brand new contract extension next spring. All this worry turns out to have been for nothing.
Certainly possible.
But other potential outcomes, season doesn't go the way for Jackson or the Ravens. Extension talks get a little testy. The Ravens have some of the maybe leverage, but Lamar has some no trade stuff, and I think Lamar has a no franchise tag clause in his contract as well. I
do know that he's been hard to deal with because I think his mom's his agent.
Yeah, I do believe so. The Ravens are forced to decide whether to let him play out the final year of his contract or to trade him next offseason.
I mean, we talked about before, rookie head coach, Matabuke's injured, center's not great. They win 7 or 8 games, kind of uninspired, but you still think Minter's the dude. He was just learning on the job. Am I trading Lamar for 3 first-round picks and going back to the well in a big way?
Now, I
could understand that.
I could too, but let me ask you this. At that point in his career where Lamar would be into his 30s with 1 year left on his contract, could they get the ransom for him that they wanted?
He'd have to have a good year. I mean, again, he can't be injured and banged up again.
And that's kind of the juxtaposition is if he has a really good year, I don't think they'll want to get rid of him. Mm-hmm. If he has an okay so-and-so year, they probably won't be able to get the crazy asking price.
I don't think the money would be a problem for the new team, but the asking price might be. Like, what if you're a perennially bad team, like Arizona? I need to sell seats. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like,
we talked about that with Vegas when they were rumored to be interested in Lamar last year. It's an interesting one there.
I bet he retires as a Raven. I bet Burrow retires as a Bengal. But those have always been a little tenuous.
Little sticky. The Cardinals are on here, Matt, just because of all the, Brissett signed for a year. No question, how much do they believe in Carson Beck?
I mean, Cardinals, Jets, Browns are the easy ones.
Atlanta Falcons are an easy one that's on this list, too.
I don't know if you saw, but Penix is now practicing full today, 11 on 11, and the beat writers basically said they want him to win the job. See if he can do it or not.
I mean, I guess that makes sense because
at least
he's the young guy.
You can evaluate him for the year, but Steeler fans, you should keep in touch. I mean, keep in touch with that because there's a good chance the opening day opponent is Penix.
Last one on here that we haven't mentioned is the Jets. Geno's signed for 1 year,
They might be the most obvious team, Jets and Browns.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they got all the first round. They got tons of first round picks.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
nobody in the wings.
And they don't. Well, I think the Jets have a clear-cut starter, but not long-term.
No, right.
Where I guess now the Browns have their starter too, but I don't think any of us think he's going to play 17 games.
And he's up after the year too. You're going to give him money?
Exactly right.
If they love Shador, they'd be starting him.
Jets' most likely outcome, better than they were last year. Geno Smith shows that the Raiders' dysfunction in Chip Kelly's offense held him back. He looks a little bit more like his Seattle self. But once again, they're out of contention early. Maybe they turn to Klubnik to evaluate his potential place in their future plans down the stretch. They win something like 6 or 7 games and kind of maneuver their treasure trove of picks to select the quarterback they like best.
Yeah.
I think that makes a lot of sense.
Still results in drafting a quarterback.
Long shot outcome. They see Klubnik, enough of him. He picks up what they're putting down quickly, and they decide to ride with him into 27 as the starter. I'd be shocked I'd be shocked if that were the outcome. But I guess it's worth mentioning that would be the long shot outcome there, certainly.
I mean, he'd have to be like, Purdy or something.
Yes,
like come out of nowhere and be like, whoa.
Yes. And then last one, I guess, Vikings with I wanted to make sure to mention this one too with Kyler Murray. Mm-hmm. Most likely outcome. As with every quarterback, other than J.J. McCarthy, who has played for Kevin O'Connell in Minnesota, Murray plays well. The Vikings make the playoffs, or at least are in contention. Haunted by the memory of what happened when they let Sam Darnold leave, the Vikings push to re-sign Murray to a long-term deal.
If I were betting, I think that's how it'll go.
He said the craziest outcome would be Kyler Murray gets hurt or struggles, J.J. McCarthy steps in, and his light bulb turns on. Minnesota picks up his 5th-year option and begins with him as the starter in 2027. I would say that is a long shot outcome.
I would say it's a long shot, but Viking fans would do cartwheels for that.
I mean, that might be your best potential option for a long-term perspective from the organization.
Because then you might have him for the next 10 years.
And you wouldn't have to go back to the quarterback in free agency or...
The guy we picked ended up hitting, just took a while.
And he'd be a little more cost-effective, too, than some of those other options.
Wouldn't be terrible.
But yeah, I don't think I'd be hanging my hat on that if I were in Minnesota. Let's talk a little quarterbacks here in Pittsburgh.
I mean, you didn't even mention like Carolina. They got to make a decision on Bryce Young.
Carolina and Houston were on there, but they were both just making a decision, long-term decision on their future quarterback. Matt, let's talk some Steelers quarterbacks, what we want to see on Thursday night, as well as some other names that we're going to be keeping an eye on when the Steelers have their last preseason game in Buffalo in about 48 hours from now. It is The Drive, Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network. Preseason game number 3, the final dress rehearsal on the horizon, Matt. Well, just about 48 hours or so from now, the Steelers will be up in Buffalo, of course, new Highmark Stadium, for their final preseason performance. I feel like we typically always start this conversation around the quarterbacks, and
sure.
I get it. But I'm very interested to see how both respond, and maybe that's a term more apt for Will Howard, because I don't think Drew Aller lit the world on fire, but I also didn't think he was terrible.
Agreed.
Where I
thought he outplayed Howard.
I thought he outplayed
Howard.
If
one of them has to win and lose, which is not how it works.
That's a good way to put it. But I would like to see from both of those guys that kind of same poise and confidence that they took the field with in preseason game 1 once again.
Yeah, and I do think their supporting cast collectively, especially Aller, because it was second half and further down the depth chart, didn't help the cause at all. But I did like the way Aller threw the football, with the exception of those sprays. I mean, you see, though, at every step of the way, there's 4 or 5 that you got to complete that get away from him.
Yep.
Now, there's also 4 or 5 that he should have completed that weren't hauled in either, that were drops. But I'm with you. I expect both of them to look and produce better than they did this past week. And if they don't, I think that's a step backwards. I mean, but there's going to be 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, 4 steps backwards, 3 steps forward. I mean, it's just the way they're, quarterback progression happens at that age.
It's a similar conversation that we've been having with some wide receivers, namely Jeremy Bernard and Roman Wilson.
Absolutely.
Do you expect, we had laid out earlier in the week how it felt like preseason.
I think I played both of them a lot.
Preseason game 1, they kind of felt like they featured Jeremy a little bit.
Yeah.
He got 5 targets, 4 receptions, where I think Roman Wilson only had 2 targets, and then that literally flip-flopped in game 2.
Mm-hmm.
It was like Roman had the 5 targets. I think Jeremy only had 1, I want to say, but I would expect that this is a heavy usage, at least first half, for both of those guys.
Yeah. So at this point, you need to know, what am I bringing into week 1? Am I really, truly comfortable with those two as my 3 and 4, whatever order they're in? Or do we got to look outside the organization and maybe bring another body in there? I mean, from my perspective, that twosome has not made me super confident that if we're going to play a lot of 3 receiver sets, we're putting out somebody we can trust. Bernard's is just more because he's only played 2 games in his NFL career. So that position to me isn't as stable as as comfortable as I want it to be, for sure, as you make your final roster and you prepare for the regular season stretch.
That's been one of the biggest surprises to me. I mean, when the Steelers went out and acquired Michael Pittman Jr. and then drafted Jeremy Bernard, it was like, all right, here we go.
Yeah.
Problem solved. And hey, maybe Bernard's a legit 3. The top 2 guys stay healthy.
Yeah.
And it is a relative non-issue throughout the regular season.
I like those 3. I mean, and I just worry, what if one of them goes down or Bernard all of a sudden looks like a deer in headlights or something? You know?
And I'd still like to see a little bit more of Bernard in preseason. And obviously, I want to see if Roman Wilson can have some type of bounce back performance.
Yeah.
Put in a better performance.
Get more confidence in him and more consistency
than what we saw on Friday night, certainly. Matt, do you expect Broderick Jones to lead the team in snaps once again for the 3rd straight preseason game?
Maybe. I'm sure there's some conditioning involved there, too. Like play him a ton to get him into football shape. That doesn't get him stronger, but it at least gets him out there a lot. The O-line might be as big a story, though, as certainly receiver or quarterback, because I'd love to see the first group or the guys that you're counting on play better, collectively. And you know me, I mean, my biggest thing I'm looking forward to is Honachor. I'm hoping he plays, and we talked about it yesterday. As we're recording this, I have not heard who's sitting, what their plan is, who's even the starting quarterback. I don't think those things have been announced yet. But if he's practicing 11 on 11, I would expect Honachor to play quite a bit and maybe very early at right tackle and make them strongly consider starting him against the Falcons.
That's, you know what, I'm glad. I probably buried the lead there a little bit.
Well, quarterbacks are still the lead.
Quarterbacks are still the lead. I guess you're right. But if Honachor goes, that is going to be kind of all eyes.
All eyeballs on that,
yes. Mike McCarthy did speak earlier today. He said that the Steelers will not make decisions about who will play in the preseason finale against the Bills until later today, till after today's practice.
Okay.
So that pretty much means, and that was after the media portion, his media availability as well.
And he does it before practice, opposed to after, where Tomlin did the other way.
Which I think is pretty savvy, honestly.
I do too.
Then you could kind of say stuff like that, and you don't, after practice, you don't really have to follow up
Buys
on
it
it.
24 hours, and right, yeah.
So that basically means it'll be TBD for Thursday night.
Okay.
Since there'll be no more Mike McCarthy speaking between now and then. In fact, if you really want to find out, make sure you listen to the pregame show when our very own Rob King will sit down with Mike McCarthy.
Okay.
I would imagine you'll get some information there, which would
I'm sure Tom and I will know 4 hours before the game when we go on it. I guess it's 3.
I would hope so.
Yeah, I would think by then we'll have a strong inkling.
I would hope so, but I know, there's the coaches show that's part of the pregame show every game, and I know Rob and Coach are going to record that. I think Wednesday night. So
do they do that from Buffalo, I assume?
I believe that's kind of a change thing this year. With Mike Tomlin, it was always Labs who did it.
Yeah.
And I think I want to say they did it on like Friday, something like that. And then, before the team would leave town or before, home games. Whereas I think with McCarthy, I'm not sure how they're going to do it for home games. I think for road games, they're going to do it from the hotel.
Gotcha.
When they get there.
Okay.
Which would obviously be later in the process, which would get you, I think, to about as accurate of information as you can have.
Yeah, he may tell Rob, we're starting Aaron Rodgers for a series.
Right.
Whatever.
Or Max is going to play, and he's going to play more than just a few snaps. Or, so that'll be a lot to keep an eye on, a lot to follow there, as there will be a little TBD element to everybody that we're going to see on Thursday night.
Yes. Defensively, I'm having a harder time coming up with keys.
I want to keep seeing the safeties look active in the run game.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think there's been good things on defense lately, for sure.
You're talking like individual players?
Yeah. I mean,
Y.A. Black.
I'd like to see him play more consistently.
Yes. I want to see him keep that pad level low throughout the game. And
might Ramsey see the field? I would think not.
I would think not.
But he's been activated.
Maybe for
Just to get him,
5 snaps.
He can hit somebody before the regular season.
Then again, though, that
thing.
kind of alludes to what you've hypothesized, that the Steelers just want to keep quiet his role, don't want to let the cat out of the bag. And
it might be real vanilla stuff, him at the nickel.
True.
But, like, if you're not going to play, we're speculating on that. If Pittman, Metcalf, Rodgers, if none of those guys are going to play, I can't imagine Ramsey, Watt, or Hayward. Watt and Hayward, I can't imagine at all play.
I would be shocked if they were even dressed. I mean,
yeah. So I'm having a harder time keying on guys down the roster. There's guys like Bruner knock off a little rust before the preseason.
I think so.
Get a hit or two.
I think so, but I also,
I understand both.
It's the same conversation we had with Rodgers last year and this year.
Mm-hmm.
I understand both sides, but I ultimately come back to I don't think either way it tips the scales.
No, I don't think you'll be like in week 5 going, man, if they would have played Metcalf that one series against the Bills, this whole season would be totally different.
If Jalen Ramsey would have just played 6 preseason snaps, everything would be different.
Would be 5-0. Right. You'll forget about it real quick.
Absolutely. I don't think anyone mentioned Aaron Rodgers' preseason lack of participation last year. And I wouldn't imagine that they would again this year.
I would think you see a lot of Nichols, maybe a lot of Caleb Johnson again, someone that maybe convince you to sneak on that roster or whatever.
Yes, absolutely right.
I don't know if even Warren and Dowd will need the hits.
I don't think so.
They took another. They each had 5 carries or whatever. I'd just leave it at that.
Matt, we are going to get to our final break here. Everyone knows what that means. We will close this thing down with your questions, comments, concerns, and reactions when we return on the other side. Uhler and Williamson, it's The Drive, Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network. Down the home stretch, final segment of The Drive on this Tuesday. And here we go, getting ready for a big preseason game up in Buffalo in about 48 hours. And before we go, we have to get to your questions, comments, concerns, and reactions. RJ says, what do you guys think of Brian Thomas Jr. as a trade candidate for the Steelers? He's still on his rookie deal. What would compensation look like if the Jags were interested in moving off him? It's a big name.
It's a big name. The Jags offense really flourished, especially down the stretch. And I do think they have big aspirations. But Parker Washington's come on like gangbusters. Myers has been really, really good for him. Hunter's still going to play a fair amount of receiver snaps. And Thomas doesn't exactly fit what this scheme lays out.
Okay.
I think he'd be a great addition to any team. A year ago, he would have been very expensive. His price went down after a suspect season, but he was also asked to do things he wasn't ideal for him, going over the middle, dirty work, Pittman kind of stuff. We talked about this yesterday. Speaking about Pittman, I read today that the Colts aligned him outside the numbers much more last year than any point of his career. And it didn't go great. I mean, his numbers weren't bad, but his average depth of target was very low when outside the numbers. I really think ideally he's a slot mostly. Not only, but a slot mostly. Which also brings me to, I think Bernard is a slot mostly. I definitely think Wilson's a slot mostly. So when we talked about like a receiver acquisition, somebody like Thomas would let everybody fall right into place because he's not going to be in the slot at all. He's going to be running deep and going up and getting it. He's the exact style I would love to get. But he ain't going to be cheap.
No.
And I can't be moving future first.
And then that would be your third big wide receiver move in the last 2 years.
Yeah, and it's not time to pay him yet, but how many times are you going to trade for a receiver, blah, blah, blah. He'd be a phenomenal addition.
Oh.
It's probably overkill.
He would take it from being still kind of a question mark group to, hey, maybe that's one of the better groups in the league.
Because he could be better than DK. He could be your number one when it's all said and done. And I understand the value in that because Pittman and Metcalf, big picture, might not be here real long. They're 29 years old.
I was going to say they're closer to 30 than they are to their rookie deal.
Bernard and Thomas for the next 5 years, more so than the 2 guys ahead of them at the moment. I just don't know how you can swing it. That would be a splash. That would be a splash. And
that's
think
not Keyshawn Butte for a 7th round pick.
No, I think it's a minimum of next year's second.
I would say at least a 2.
Yeah.
And then maybe like a pick swap in the later rounds.
And in your quarterback landscape, can you do that? I think the answer is no. Because, yes, I'd love to see someone push Roman for the 4th spot, but that doesn't mean I have to go get a 1 and push everyone down. I mean, like, that makes you really, really good at the position, and it would be doom, I assume, for Wilson. But then it's almost too many resources in that room with your quarterback need.
If there was a situation where it completely blew up in Jacksonville and suddenly he's available for a 4th-round pick,
sign me up.
Heck yeah.
Sign me up. Yeah.
But I think you're right. I think it's going to be at least a 2nd.
Today it would be,
And while that would certainly make us feel much better about the room, that'd be a big swing.
It's just a lot of resources all in one spot.
But on the surface, I would love.
That's exactly the type of guy.
The type of guy. Then all of a sudden we'd be cooking, baby. Sudesh tweets and says, I have a few things. Number 1, wearing a little thin with patience on Roman Wilson. I learned flattening my route in grade school. Number 2, I'm so pumped to see Maxi Honachor. Number 3, I'd like to start seeing the offensive line play at least a quarter. Would like your guys' opinions on these things.
Not what he asked, but I think it's down the same road. I would like to see, I don't think it'll happen, but I would love to see a Honachor start the game and really play with Anderson, Frazier, McCormick, Faltanu, and just see what that looks like. The 5 of them, don't change anybody in there.
For more than a series.
Let's do a quarter. Or even Hoffman at right guard. I mean, because I think he's making a case that maybe he could be the right guard. I don't think they'll do that. That's not usually how teams operate. I would think Cook is your starting right tackle, and then Honachor gets mixed in with randos, to some degree. People, different groups and whatnot. But I do think how they insert him in the lineup is going to be really telling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think he has good points on all those, yeah.
If he is playing on Thursday and is immediately starting at right tackle,
it doesn't mean he's the opening day starter, but let's see how you handle it.
I think that means there's a really good chance he's the opening day starter. That is certainly something to keep an eye on when we get going on Thursday. Jeff says, you guys talked yesterday and have been discussing your lack of confidence in the depth in the wide receiver room. Mm-hmm. I'd like to know your confidence in all other offensive tackles besides Faltanu. Haven't performed well, worried about it with a 42-year-old quarterback. Also, if you guys, if it was up to you, what would be fair money for Joey Porter Jr.? 2 good questions there from Jeff.
I still think Porter's worth $27, $28. But again, that contract doesn't exist.
And as Matt I think it's very easy for us to look at it and say, there's that group of guys making 30 plus, and there's that group of guys in the 25 range. Put him closer to the 30 group, give him 27, 28, call it a day.
Yeah.
But that's just not how agents and
not how negotiations
operate.
in the
they
NFL
like to
really
have
work.
An example,
another
contract to work off of.
Yeah. Tackles out. I think Max is an incomplete. My thoughts on him haven't changed at all. On Honachor, just haven't seen him. So I'm still extremely optimistic about him. The other 2 haven't played very well. I mean, I think you have to have real concerns that tackles not named Faltanu and Honachor through preseason play so far. No question.
Smooth Dave says, if Howard and Aller swapped colleges, do you think we would view them differently? Howard had to facilitate while Aller was asked to elevate. I can't help but think what Aller would have looked like with better coaching and a historically loaded group of playmakers.
It's a really good way of looking at it, because originally I'm like, those are 2 pretty good schools. I mean, Penn State and Ohio State, they're pretty competitive.
Again, it's not Ohio State to Akron,
right.
But I also understand what Smooth Dave is asking.
Yeah,
Ohio State won a national championship and was loaded at wide receiver and great coaching staff.
And asked much less of the quarterback than Penn State.
Yes.
And I also don't think they instilled bad habits like Penn State's group did. So, yeah, I think you would see them differently. I think they'd be in way different parts of their development.
I don't think you would have been able to get Aller as a 3rd rounder. I'll tell you that. Tell you, if he would have stayed healthy, because obviously he had the injury stuff. But that's an interesting question. I think
it's a good way of viewing it.
I think Aller would have been a 1st-round pick. I mean, if he
went
to Ohio
even if
State.
he had a very up and down career and missed throws like he still does, but his college tape and production would have definitely been better.
I will say this though: Will Howard did a lot of good things at Kansas State to get to Ohio State.
Yeah, they don't just grab you to Ohio
State. Ain't just looking for anybody in the transfer portal.
Just take guys, tryouts, whoever wants to show
Joe
up.
Schmo quarterback.
Right. No, you got to prove a lot.
At Kansas State, which is a good program, but not Ohio State.
But he got himself to Ohio State.
To Ohio State by what he was able to do there, where he wasn't surrounded by historically great playmakers.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it really hits home with Uhler. I think Uhler would have been a first-round pick if he was at a program like Ohio State.
Quite possibly.
I would have quite possibly. You're right.
Yeah.
He would have had to stay healthy and all those
if
things.
he didn't get hurt too, right?
Yes. Chef Plum says, "Hey brothers, great to hear you guys on YouTube again. How would you feel about Noah Brown as a potential for the Steelers? Had some of his best seasons in Dallas. Think he might be able to push Roman.
I think he has a little special teams background too.
He does
He's
have a little special
tougher,
teams background.
Yeah.
That sounds right. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I know a ton about Noah Brown.
He's another Ohio Stater that was kind of down the not as celebrated as teammates. Has some physicality to him. Has some downfield ability. I frankly don't know what he even did last year, or if he was in the league, or if he caught any passes, or if he spent the year in injured reserve. Haven't heard that name in a year or two. That's why I'd be shocked if he's like the answer. I think that's asking a lot from someone that hasn't been productive lately and was never all that much of a difference maker.
Maybe he gives you more special teams acumen.
Yeah.
Might not solve the wide receiver problem.
If they would have brought him into camp 3 weeks ago and and see what you get your hands on him for a month or whatever, and maybe there's something still there. At this point, I wouldn't be like, problem solved.
Yes, exactly right.
Or, Roman better be quaking in his boots because Noah Brown showed up.
Matt, we've got the return of some YouTube questions and comments here with the return of us to YouTube as well. Upload Channel says, "We are back. P.S. Big Macs are like Duck Hodges' 2019 stats. 5 touchdowns, 8 interceptions." Now, hold on. I think Big Macs are more like Michael Vick.
Okay.
Elite in small doses. Just can't carry a franchise.
Yeah, and I don't think they're Duck Hodges. I mean, you're pretty happy with them on game day, and then post game, you're like, I don't know if I should have done that. I also heard someone suggest we should name Max Ohanichor Big Mac.
We did get someone that
saying
tweeted us that.
Yeah.
Hey, if he plays well,
perhaps.
It's like when everyone started calling Chase Claypool Mapletron before he even played a game, I was like, pump the brakes on that. All right.
I thought it was a bad nickname too. It's
bad
like Danny
nickname
Dimes
because it's lazy. It's just you're copying off of Megatron and you're just Maple because he's Canadian.
He's Canadian.
And also, you don't get a cool nickname until you prove worthy of that cool nickname.
No, maybe if you were a top 5 pick and looked like him and played,
They weren't calling Walter Payton Sweetness, when he was still trying to become Walter Payton. You gotta prove it before you get the nickname, baby. Anthony says, "Hey Matt, are you going to release your fantasy big board this year?"
Yeah, I work on it every day. I'm sure we can go through it during
next
that
2 weeks
that
when we've got some
downtime before Labor Day. Yeah.
Let's see. Stefan says, "Great to see you guys back on YouTube. Missed you boys." Wes, a well-known college football YouTuber, does a WVU Dynasty rebuild for his yearly Dynasty just in case you need something to watch. Hey, I'll be onto that. I love it. Question, what are you guys looking forward to most this season, and what are your projections for our tight ends this year? Love from Austria.
Whoa.
Love it. My dad
I'm expecting Fryer.
My dad will be in Austria here in a few days.
Oh, that's cool, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm expecting Freiermuth's numbers to spike. I think he'll be used a lot. I think he'll be targeted a lot, mostly out of the slot. It's easy to say everyone's numbers are going to go up. And
That's
this time of year, you always say
right?
that,
Yep.
and it just isn't how the world works or the math of it all. I don't know that Washington's numbers will spike, but I think his role will be very sound and very, very fruitful for the team. I don't know what I'm most looking forward to.
I'm most looking forward to and this sounds funny because in a lot of ways, Matt, I'm not a change guy. I like my routine and my schedule.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm looking forward to this is the first time in 19 years the Steelers have had a different leader.
Yeah, that's been fun so far.
Practice time
Learn a lot,
is going to be different. Press conference time is going to be different.
Mm-hmm. Game day.
We're flying out a half an hour later than we typically do.
Oh, boy.
You know what I mean? I'm just interested to see how everything plays out with Mike McCarthy. It's a new head coach. This is my 9th year covering the Steelers. First head coach change.
Mm-hmm.
First real sweeping and I know the general managers have changed and offensive and defensive coordinators, but 19 years of Mike Tomlin,
right.
that's a lot different.
He was such a fixture here,
And
right.
I mean, I was in high school the last time the Steelers made a coaching change. I'm 35 years old now with 2 kids.
Yeah, right.
It's just
No, that's a good one.
I'm just interested to see what it looks like with a different head coach and a different voice and a different leader. That's something that we've had so infrequently.
And I think that goes for schemes, game day decisions, going for it on 4th down, when you use your timeouts, substitutions, every little aspect of head coaching.
And of course, along the lines of the WVU in that comment, everyone knows I'm always jacked up to watch Zach Frazier. Matt, that's going to do it for us today.
All right.
Actually, real quick, I wanted to make sure to mention, of course, I lost it here. Ian tweeted us, one of our regulars, and said, interesting tidbit on the Joey Porter Jr. saga. Ian Rappaport just said on TV that once the Steelers sign JPJ, he will be the highest paid corner in the league.
I saw that tweet. I didn't follow up on it.
Yeah. I'll have to look. I find a hard-pressed scenario where he's the highest-paid corner in the league as a Pittsburgh Steeler in the next 2 weeks.
In the next 2 weeks. I'd be shocked if he's number 1.
If he goes out there and dominates this season and then they have to sign him next offseason, maybe.
Now, I will say...
I'll have to look into that more, though, Ian. We'll have to look into that a little more and see what the context behind that was.
This is a league-wide thing, though, but if I were out there, I would tell everyone, bet the over on what contracts are going to be.
Just in general now.
Just in general. The league is thriving, and these contracts are going up very rapidly.
If I asked our listeners to name the center of the Arizona Cardinals,
right,
I bet you 10% would get it.
Yeah.
And he just got a $20 million a year contract.
Yes, that's insane. He's a good player under the radar.
He's not Linderbaum or Weaver or Humphrey.
He's a success story, and they like him, and they're lining all the help he get.
He's now the second highest paid center in football.
Froholt's his last name, by the way. Right. He sounds
like a Lord of the Rings character.
Exactly. And he's good, but most people don't know who he is. Partially because of where he plays, and he was not a 1st or 2nd round pick.
And if you look at all the center lists, he's not top 4 or top 5 on most of them.
And I can tell you, Zach's going to make more than that.
I think one Zach Frazier was very happy to see that news across the
He's making more than that
earlier today. When centers that most football fans can't name are getting kind of record breaking and
monster deals,
that tells you everything you need to know about how healthy the NFL is cash wise. But that will do it for us today. Big thanks to each and every one of yins. Good to be back in the YouTube comments and always on Twitter with all of you good people. Of course, to our guy TV, Mr. Tyler V, for producing on the video side. And guys, how about a big shout out to Josh, new engineer in the building here at iHeart today.
Well, you saved the day.
Who helped us navigate some issues earlier. Josh is our hero. There's been some people who have made life difficult on us, but Josh is trying to save us, and for that, we are grateful. So if there's any wonky gremlins in the podcast feed today, don't blame it on us. All right? It's out of our control. Take care, everybody. We'll be back to talk with you on Friday at the conclusion of the preseason. As always, you know where to find us. It's on your 24/7 home of the black and gold, Steelers Nation Radio on the Steelers Audio Network.